Hello and welcome to the College Investor Audio Show. We are so honored that you are joining us today. Today we take a look at 10 tips for living with your first college roommate. I had a great experience, but a lot of people don't have great experiences, so that's why we're talking about that today. But before we get to that, just want to remind you to hit that subscribe button on the podcast so you're always up to date on the new content that we post, which we do all the time. You can also follow us or like us or whatever other term there is on social media. Just search for The College Investor and you'll find us. We're there. We'd love to get to know you better. All right, let's get to it. So 10 tips for living with your first college roommate. Okay, your first year of college. Of course, it's so much fun, filled with new opportunities and challenges. But one of those being the prospect of living with a roommate for the first time ever. Actually, no, one of my biggest concerns the summer before freshman year was like, who am I going to be living with? So, who's it? What are they going to be like? Will I even know them? Are we going to get along? What if something goes wrong? I know sharing a living space with someone for the first time, whether it's your best friend or a total stranger, mine was, can be exciting and intimidating at the same time. There's a lot to navigate that exists outside of your control. Habits, personalities, cuisine, culture, and a whole lot of other lifestyle factors shared in a tight space. A lot of fun. You're not alone in your concerns, though, and it's likely your roommate has been thinking something similar that you have, too. So finding harmony in your college roommate requires a number of soft skills to foster a positive relationship and, of course, a safe living environment. And I bet that if thousands of students have successfully navigated this before you, I have. You can do it too. All right, listen on for some tips for living with your first college roommate. First, let's talk about the benefits of having a roommate. I think every college student should experience dorm room life at least once during their time in school. It teaches you several skills in a short amount of time that will continue to come in handy when you navigate social situations or communicating differences with others throughout your life. It also helps you better understand your own living preferences while keeping you close in proximity to the places where you'll spend most of your time. That's already 3 benefits you gain from living with a roommate in college. Another glaring benefit of having a roommate is that it offers lower costs, and this goes for living on or off campus. Aside from this, though, having a roommate can be helpful for sharing responsibilities, expanding your comfort zone, adding some peace of mind in a new and unfamiliar area, and providing companionship. Though I do caution students not to expect their freshman roommate to become their best friend forever, okay? But building a strong relationship, of course, takes time, and that's okay. All right, so navigating life with your college roommate. Let's get through this one, too. Getting along with your college roommate can be an integral part of your freshman experience. After all, it might be the first time you're sharing living space with someone else, and that will naturally create opportunities and challenges to navigate together. So here are the top 10 tips we have for living with your first college roommate. Number 1, get to know one another. I think the best place to start is just to allow time to get to know your roommate and to let them get to know you too. In fact, the sooner you begin building a relationship with each other, the better your chances of success throughout the school year. You can even reach out before move-in day to schedule an introductory chat, start pinpointing what you have in common. A friend of mine did this with their assigned roommate freshman year, primarily to coordinate their linen colors. And they're still friends, 10 years later. Interesting. Number 2, establish clear boundaries. It's important that you and your roommate set clear boundaries too, right at the outset of your time living together. Doing so will foster a harmonious living environment and help prevent future conflict or maybe some misunderstandings. You're going to want to consider each other's expectations for studying, sleeping, personal space, sharing responsibilities around common areas. Even if your roommate is someone you've known for years, sharing living space can change people. So I encourage you to still have this conversation with them. Number 3, prioritize effective communication. Communicating openly and clearly is the best way to quickly address conflicts or other sensitive subjects and maintain a healthy, positive relationship. Practice active listening. Keep a respectful tone, and then stay open to feedback too. This approach is going to help ensure your communication is constructive and productive. Number 4, respect each other's space. When you were younger, you might have heard the golden rule: treat others the way you want to be treated, right? This is an active thing. That statement still rings true in college. Respecting your roommate's space is key to building a healthy relationship and establishing a secure living environment. Showing respect for your roommate's space and belongings tells them you value their need for comfort and autonomy. When you're setting boundaries with your roommate, go ahead and discuss which areas are off limits, whether you should ask permission before borrowing something, and what level of organization they expect in shared spaces. All right, number 5, respect each other's schedule. In the same vein as respecting one another's space, remember to be considerate of your roommate's schedule. Coordinate your study times, set designated quiet hours, and give each other a heads up when obligations arise. Being mindful of your roommate's schedule indicates that you value their time and their commitments, and by practicing open communication early and often, you can minimize disruptions and allow one another to balance personal, social, and academic priorities effectively. I had to get up really early for work, so my roommates that I had always understood that I had to go to bed earlier, which kind of stunk. But whatever, I had to, and they respected it. And our relationship grew because of it. Number 6, set expectations for having guests. Oh, this is huge. This is easily in the top 3 tips to keep in mind for your first roommate. When you have the setting clear boundaries conversation, you should also discuss the terms and conditions around having guests over. For instance, how many guests are allowed over at a time? During what times of the day? What spaces will they be in? You're going to want to have clear boundaries for overnight guests, too, and for noise levels in shared spaces. After all, you want to make sure your living space maintains its inclusive, welcoming environment for both you and your roommate. Number 7, share common responsibilities. Not sharing responsibilities with your roommate can quickly lead to feelings of resentment. Conversely, sharing responsibilities can foster a sense of pride in your living space and create positive habits for routinely cleaning and caring for your shared spaces. You can even hang a whiteboard near the front door and divide chores among roommates so they're visible and can be done in everyone's own time. Number 8, cultivate empathy. This is huge. Empathy helps you understand someone else's perspective, sympathize with their situation, and hopefully build a stronger relationship because of it. If you can put yourself in your roommate's shoes, you can likely offer support and encouragement when they need it most. On that note, I also want to encourage you to expect positive intent with one another. Offer a hand or an ear, and just simply try to be there for each other when things get tough. Number 9, address issues early on. If and when conflict arises between you and your roommate, try to address it right now. Don't let your frustrations fester and build and eventually turn into resentment toward one another. Instead, be proactive in finding time to work things out. It's okay to want to discuss something that's been bothering you or making you uncomfortable. That's totally fine. Just remember to stay open and honest if your roommate comes to you with the same thing. Approaching your conflict with empathy and a goal of coming to the solution together will help prevent minor issues from becoming larger problems. Number 10, whatever you do, don't be passive aggressive. This could be the most important one of all. This one for last is because I saw it time and time again throughout college. More often than not, it soured the living environment, spurred gossip, made others feel like they had to take a side. So my advice, steer clear of it altogether. Run. I'd bet that the most common form of passive aggression in college students occurs via sticky notes. Yeah. You know what I'm talking about. These are great if you want to notify your roommate of a schedule change, give them a heads up if you're having friends over, or just to label a yogurt in the fridge, because your roommate often forgets what they bought. Anything with positive intent is okay. When your negative feelings start to arise is when you risk falling into the territory of passive aggression. Trust me, you'll be doing yourself a favor if you instead confront the issue head on, keeping a calm demeanor, even-keeled tone, and genuine interest in finding a shared solution. questions to discuss with your roommate in your first week. You can write these down to help ease any anxiety around getting to know your roommate and establishing boundaries in your living space. Just some starter questions to ask. What are your hobbies and interests? Are there any clubs or organizations you want to join on campus? What's your typical daily schedule like? Early bird, night owl? How do you like to unwind after a long day? What about your study habits? Do you prefer quiet time or do you like background noise? When do you tend to go to sleep and wake up? How do you feel about sharing items in the common areas? Is there anything you prefer not to share? What are your expectations around cleanliness and organization? Are there certain chores you would rather do? How can we ensure that social activities in our living space are considerate of each other's needs? How do you prefer to communicate your concerns? Can we agree to address problems directly and in a timely manner? Don't feel like you have to shy away from questions regarding finances either, if that's important for you to discuss. This will be especially important if you end up living with roommates off campus. All right, so here are some final thoughts. Navigating life with your first college roommate can be exciting and rewarding for sure. You'll undoubtedly encounter multiple opportunities for growth, and you may even end up with a lifelong friend. But remember to keep things in perspective. Go into it with an open mind, understand your own boundaries, communicate your needs, establish expectations, and don't expect your roommate to be your best friend from day one. Also, skip the passive aggressiveness. Remember that this is only part of your total college experience, and you can define what that means for you. Give yourself some autonomy by finding somewhere to study outside of your dorm and building friendships with classmates or other students with shared hobbies. Above all, remember to have some fun. For crying out loud, freedom! All right, and that is our show for today. Thank you so much for stopping by again, and if you want to find out some more tips, dive a little bit deeper into this topic, you can always check it out at thecollegeinvestor.com. Search for us all over social media. We're there. We'd love to get to know you and cultivate a friendship of our own. Thanks again and again for stopping by. We can't thank you enough, and we'll talk to you again real soon.